Well, hello everyone and welcome along to the legendary Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps as we head to round 2 of the Esports WTCR season after a completely frantic and breathtaking round at the Nordschleife to open out the season. There's been drama in that round and there has been drama between it. Drama even in the commentary booth because James Kirk unfortunately unavailable to join us for today's action. It's myself, Lewis McGlade. Joining me in the commentary booth is Ewan O'Leary. Ewan, I mean, these touring cars, they're fantastic. They're entertaining to race. But when you come to a circuit like this, everything is wide open.
Yeah, absolutely, because the track's quite wide when you're in a car like this, to be quite honest with you. It's not normally, but it is in these cars. A great selection of tracks, by the way, on the calendar this season. Even the Nordschleife provided good racing for us. It's normally a procession, a follow the leader type affair, but there was plenty of overtaking, plenty of drama on and off the track with that one. I'm sure we'll get into it. But yeah, a great selection of tracks. And personally, I think any track is great racing for these WTCR cars. Even Suzuka will be exciting, where normally it's not really, but yeah, in these cars it will be fantastic. So very much looking forward to having Spa, not in the summer, which is a nice relief.
Yeah, we're actually getting a time of year where it's not being run every single weekend, so that is a good sign. Of course, like you say, round 2 here at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, 7 kilometres, 2 of which are run from the first corner at La Source down the hill through a Rouge and Radion up towards Les Combes. An incredibly long run in most cars, but in these more so than any. It's going to be a pretty breathtaking affair on the rise up and then sluggishly down the hill as we kind of expect from these cars. The race format, by the way, for the day, qualifying will be coming up in a few moments time before we get to the 2 races. Race 1 being from the qualifying order, race 2 though being that top 10 reverse grid, which, let's be honest, when it comes to touring cars, we like seeing the reverse grids. It's something a bit dramatic, it's something a bit different, but it just works so brilliantly in touring car racing.
Yeah, I absolutely love this kind of racing, and this format as well with the reverse grid as well makes it even better. I guess any car's in reverse grid, but whatever, it's a fantastic car to go racing with. We've seen it in the RaceRoom Ranked Championship. If you joined us for that last season, we had one of the best championship finales I saw in 2022, to be honest. It was really, really entertaining. Back at Interlagos, great drama in that one, chops and changes. And I'm hoping that we're going to get a similar championship finale in a few weeks' time for this one as well. But yeah, it is such great racing as we saw last week.
I think speaking of chops and changes, we need to discuss this. What is on your screen at the moment, Ben Spanky leads the championship. For anyone who joined us at the Nordschleife, you might think, Ben Spanky leading the championship? That doesn't sound right. Jack Keithley was leading the championship, was up there in the championship after that race 1 victory. However, that victory has been stripped after contact between himself and Ben Spanky and pretty ruthless fighting between the pair. Jack Keithley had that race win stripped and was dropped down the order, and also had a penalty in the second race after contact between himself and Juan Manuel Gomez, causing Jack Keithley to drop down to 10th and receiving a ban from qualifying for this round. So he'll have to do all of the work from the back in race 1, but trust me, if there's anyone that can work his way up the grid, Jack Keithley is very much on that list. It is Ben Spanky leading the championship by a whopping 5 points over champion Gergo Baldi, who's in second spot, just a point clear of Petr Pliška and Gianmarco Fiducci. Of course, Ben Spanky was the driver that topped the shootouts, the pre-season qualifier, effectively to get into the 2023 season of the Esports WTCR Championship. So looking to continue on some of that form. A couple of other drivers, though, to look out for over this list. You've got David Noj on there. You've got Axel Vermeulen, home circuit for him. He is very quick around here. Of course, Max Pfeiffer, Florian Haas, Dur Esports. They struggled a little bit more on speed back in the Nordschleife, but expect to see a little bit more from them today. Everyone's favourite Jersey, James Montgomery, 24th on the list. Of course, a few of these drivers are having to do that pre-qualifier to get back in. Kirill Antonov will look to put the negatives of the previous round behind him. Gergo Baldi also up there. French Dinez, another driver who's actually been very quick in the RaceRoom Ranked Championship in these kind of cars. Kind of curious to see what we can see out of him. Same with the likes of Kili Nikola Latkovsky and Steph Kramer. Let's be honest though, Ewan, pretty much the entire grid there is just, it's spellbinding. It's a star-struck list that we've got going racing today.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. You look at the pre-qualified drivers, you'd expect those to be strong drivers, of course, because they've done it the easy way per se. But just looking at some of the names that qualified in is unbelievable. At the bottom of the list of those that qualified in, Cody Nikolakowski, who won the Daytona 2.4 hour a couple of weeks ago. I know that's a completely different car, but he's a very strong driver. Like Pavel McCunnin had to qualify in. Orban, Denez, you just mentioned there, Jennifer Connery as well, all had to qualify their way in on the in the few days before this race. So yeah, it's a really stacked field. But the same names up towards the top as you'd expect to see. So yeah, looking forward to seeing if anybody this time can really nail the two races, because at the Nordschleife it was kind of difficult. Nobody was really great in both of the races in terms of a really strong result. Fiducci was probably the most consistent, but he still ended up at fourth place in the standings right now. So looking forward to seeing whether anybody can really nail a reverse grid this time.
Yeah, see, I think part of it came from the fact that the Nordschleife was actually quite difficult to overtake on, right? You've got one damn long straight, being the Ditting-Hoa, and then outside of that, you've got the Turn 1 of the Grand Prix Loop and pretty much nothing else when it comes to proper good overtaking opportunities. Around here, though, you've got overtaking opportunities aplenty up towards Les Combes through Malmedy, down the hill at Rivage. If you're brave, Ewan, but I probably would recommend against it, down towards the bus stop and obviously into T1 at La Source. There's a lot of really good overtaking opportunities around here, meaning I would suspect we might see a slightly more consistent round on those points to follow up what you're saying. But then do remember that a few of those drivers that are looking to bounce back on the points with a double points haul, they'll need to do it here, because the next round we go racing is Macau. And let's be honest, back-to-back races around there, yeah, probably not. It's possible, but still.
Some people are going to be tearing their eyes out after that, I think, because some people just don't like Macau, I suppose. I'm so looking forward to that race, to be honest, because of the circuit and what RaceRoom has done to it as well, in terms of how well it is put into RaceRoom. It's such a good circuit. So very much looking forward to that. But yeah, I feel like this race is very important in terms of getting two races strung together. Although do remember, those that finish in about 10th place are quite strong drivers as well. So it is easier said than done to get through a reverse grid, even if you win the first race. Before
we start talking about the races, qualifying is underway, and it is Bence Banky. He presently has the provisional pole position. Try saying that fast 3 times in a row. As Max Pfeiffer behind him, just a 300th of a second gap back. Pfeiffer, though, having to deal with Fiducci, Pliska, Ottaviani, the trio of Italians rolling a couple of tenths off. There is Gianmarco Fiducci, and you can see a slight change in livery. No more Fordzilla on there. I've not had a full discussion with Gianmarco Fiducci about it, but a private operator for this round. Yeah, interesting to see that he's dropped the Fordzilla label, because there are some other Fordzilla drivers out there, I presume, in Fordzilla liveries for the likes of Ottaviani and who else? Pliska as well. They're in Fordzilla colours. So not really sure why, but yeah, I'm sure he'll be fine on his own, to be honest. Fiducci up there right now, and Ottaviani up there right now as well. It's such a close qualifying session, even over such a long lap as this, 2 minutes and a half, really long lap around here in touring cars. It is going to remain really, really close, and it's going to be separated by hundredths, possibly thousandths of a second between 1 and 2 here. Yeah, which over a 7-kilometre lap is actually genuinely very, very impressive indeed. 6 minutes left to go in the session, and for anyone who's joining us for the first time in RaceRoom competition, etc., we do say it all the time, but we'll say it once more just for good measure. When that timer hits 0, the session is done. You're not allowed to finish a lap, you're not allowed to do anything like that. The session will come to a close, it will end immediately. We'll see the results pop up, and then we'll get ready to move into the first of our races. We're on board with Petr Pliska here. You can see all the slips and slides. The race 2 winner from the Nordschleife a couple of weeks ago, really pushing this car to its very limit. Into Puon. Goodness me. See that, the rear end stepping out, obviously on turning. Still somehow seems butter smooth on that steering wheel, though. Yeah, it's a strange way you have to drive front-wheel drive sometimes. I can never get my head around it as a driver, and some people just can't. I suppose it's very difficult to me, but some people just have a real knack to it. Clearly not very impressed with himself through the middle sector there, but yeah, some people just have a knack to it. Yeah, it's bizarre for
for that really. But anyway, he's going to try again. Yeah, they're so peculiar to drive in some ways, touring cars, no matter what sim you do them on. Lots of oversteer on the way in, but flooring it with the front wheel drive and you'll be absolutely fine. Yeah, they're very peculiar, very unique. Different. But Ben Spanky certainly knows what he's doing in one, and currently second place right now, although he's going to have to try again.
I did say that Pliska, by the way, wouldn't get another lap in, which obviously is, again, never just a commentator's mess. My mind instantly went to him having to do a full out lap and then a time lap, at which point, yes, 5 minutes wouldn't be enough, but they've got enough time for a timed lap. Speaking of timed laps, Goga Baldi into the top 5, moving up to 5th position, just 2/10 off of the pole. And there is the driver that is sat on pole position at the moment, Max Pfeiffer, who is a teammate down this round. Let's talk about that in just a second. One driver of the allotted drivers that have come in through the shootout missing, that one being Tim Yarshall of Dur Esports. So Max Pfeiffer down a teammate, and Max Pfeiffer did struggle a little bit speed-wise back in the Nordschleife. I think finished the first race in 11th spot, obviously missing out on the top 10 reverse grid by, spookily enough, 1 position. Well, he looks to not lose out on pole position in a technical sense for 2 weekends in a row, because he wants to take the big one by taking pole position for the main race. Looking very strong at the moment.
He is half a tenth better off than Banky right now, and will come across the line first out the 2 as well. He's won the ranked championship a couple of times now in 2022. And won all the races in season 2, so it certainly knows how to win a race. But that was GT Freeze, of course. This is touring cars, very different, but showing himself to be very versatile and very adaptable now in the EWTCR right now. And Goga Baldi trying to do the same as well. Still only 2 tenths away, but 5th position. It is remarkably close. Yeah.
Especially, I say, for a circuit this long. This is exactly what we expect, though, in this competition, for it to remain within the tenths or so margin. It means that for those, for the likes of, say, for example, Jack Keithley, who has that qualifying ban, to come up through the order, it's a nightmare, because you're having to battle tooth and nail with people that aren't actually that much slower than you, but they're in 25th place, 20th place, and you're a driver that kind of thinks that you should be towards the front. It's just not easy. An improvement from the driver, the teammate of the driver that we're looking at the moment, Goga Baldi, because David Noj has moved up inside the top 5, deposing his teammate in single position down towards 6th. We'll see if Goga Baldi can improve any more. This is going to be his last lap in this session. The timer ticking down, 2 minutes left to go. And again, when it hits 0 session, done. So Goga Baldi will finish this lap time and has nothing more on the table. Coming down to that final chicane, the bus stop, if you will. Of course, the original name for it when it used to actually be bus stop. Now it's just a pretty standard and boring chicane. Goga Baldi across the line. No improvement. Oh, no, it's a bit later than that. Never mind. He's gone up to 3rd. He has gone up into 3rd position. I thought the line was a bit earlier than that. Got ahead of myself.
Yeah, it normally is, but Baldi there had to stay accelerating for just a little bit longer. Up to 3rd, although he's immediately pushed to 4th as Ottaviani goes up to 3rd place now. So close, though, 4 thousandths separating 3rd through 5th right there, which is absolutely crazy, really. Still half a tenth between Pfeiffer and Banky right now. Not sure either of them are improving, really, or going to improve their position from where they are right now. And we'll see what Martin Barder can do as well here in 10th place right now. Need to stay in and around that top 10, because as you mentioned, top 10 get reversed for race 2. And so you don't want to do what Max Pfeiffer did last race and finish in 11th place. That's especially painful. They're going to fight very, very hard in this kind of region towards the end of, well, throughout the entirety of the first race.
You'd have to assume that would be the case. You just get inside the top 10 somewhere. Almost. Especially if you're one of the runners that he's not going for the championship. Now, Martin Barner definitely is one of those that wants to aim for it. I know he hasn't really got the points on the table to back that one up. But after struggles in qualifying at the last round of the Nordschleife, he had an incredible job moving his way up the order in both races. This is the provisional qualifying. Of course, we'll have to see if there's any more lap times to come in. But at the moment, it does seem as though Pfeiffer has the pole position by 400 for a second over Ben Spanky, the championship leader, who will start from 2nd. Alessandro Ottaviani and Goga Baldi starting from 3rd and 4th. Baldi and Fiducci, though, having exactly the same times. Finucci starting from 5th. Then Noj, Pliska, Gomez, Vermeulen inside the top 10 on his debut for the season. And then Martin Barner starting from 10th. You know what question I'm going to ask you here? Drama or karma on the first lap? And by karma, I mean C-A-L-M-A rather than K-R-M. You know, I mean K-A-R-M-A. I can't spell.
Or C-A-L-M-E-R. I don't know.
Or karma. Yeah, there is that. What were we expecting on that first lap?
I do expect it to be a little bit hectic, if I'm honest. It's not a long race. Everybody's going to have a lot of ambition into a very tight corner, and I do think that, it's going to be a little bit chaotic. Maybe even not so much down in towards La Source, but up the hill towards the bottom end as we look at this track map here, up towards Les Combes. That's where you often see some incidents. I mean, not in terms of people going round, but just in terms of people using the tarmac on the outside there, going across the big sausage curbs that go across the road down here. You do see a little bit of chaos here every now and then. I mean, yeah, it's not a long, and it's a long race. It's a touring car race. So, yeah, I'm expecting a little bit of bumping and barging, really, in the first lap.
I'd be surprised and almost a bit disappointed if we didn't. If it all went single file down the hill and then back up and be like, what's
the point of that?
That's underwhelming. We're driving touring cars. Let's, get out there, get those elbows out. I'm sure we won't have to wait long before we see some form of drama. Again, it is into that braking zone of the first corner. It is then an incredibly long run down the hill and then back up again towards Les Combes. It's kind of one of those ones where, as a driver, in qualifying, you sat there thinking, oh, God, will this straight ever end? Meanwhile, in the race, you're thinking, no, come on, I need an extra couple of 100 meters. I need to get down the inside somehow. Not going to be an easy race, that's for sure.
No, and I think this is, Spa being one of the good circuits for racing, just generally in any car, it's going to be just heightened in the touring cars as well. I remember from the ranked championship we had in season 2 that, we had great racing at circuits I didn't think were going to race very well at all, like the Hockenheim. I thought it was going to be a bit of a boring race, but it was absolutely enthralling with the touring cars. So very much looking forward to it. With the top level of competition as well, these are the very best in this situation on RaceRoom in these cars. They are the very best. So very excited indeed.
Well, 25 minutes have gone onto the clock. The third race of the season, the first race here at Spa, as we get ourselves underway at the legendary circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. And it is a good start from Ben Spanky on the inside to get to the inside run, heading down to that first corner. Outside, it's not going to work out, I don't believe, for Pfeiffer. He's going to get pushed out by his teammate as we start heading through La Source and down the hill. It's door versus door. It's door-to-door combat at the front of this field as we see them all go single file, at least towards the back end of the top 10. A little bit of a lift out there from Gianmarco Finucci, allowing Gergo Bowden to get into line. But at the moment, it seems to be pretty calm.
Yeah, it was Ottaviani in the Formzilla car that was trying to get alongside Max Pfeiffer there, but couldn't really do it. Had to slot in ahead of Boldi. And now there's all sorts of battling going on for third place. Ottaviani and Boldi go side by side with the Italian on the outside. The Hungarian's going to get the inside at Malmedy by the looks of things. And they're side by side for the lead as well.
Yeah, it's Pfeiffer trying to get back around the outside, heading down the hill towards Rivage. It's nearly 4 wide as well as there's contactors. That was Gergo Bowdy trying to slot the gap and making contact with Alessandro Ottaviani for the second weekend in a row in the Esports WTCR Championship. Pfeiffer and Banky, though, getting very, very close. Maybe even a little bit too close. They're teammates, but they don't want to take each other out. They're still feeling very confident around each other as we look at David Noj battling it out with Gianmarco Finucci and Pliska. Finucci's out wide, though, on the run through Puon, and he might just open the door for a potential run from the Hungarian behind. The answer to that question is no, because Finucci is looking in one direction, and it is forwards to try and get past the reigning champ.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's all stemming from this battle between teammates, between Ben Spanky and Max Pfeiffer at the moment. They're fighting themselves. It's backing up everybody into everybody else, and now there's just battling everywhere, side by side for sixth position with Pliska and Noj. It looks like the Audi on the inside should have that one now, and Pliska and Manuel Gomez now are going to have to fight things out for seventh place. That's going to filter down even further as Vermeulen is going to get involved. Steph Kremers as well, most likely, as they run up towards Bonschmont and down into the bus stop chicane, where there's going to be a big braking zone, and maybe some people reaching breaking point here, because it's everybody at once.
Yeah, a couple of mirrors either side of a couple of Fordzillas as we head down into the bus stop chicane. Who's going for what? Alessandro Ottaviani's trying to take second position. Who was that who went straight on in the foreground? Now that is the chaos we were expecting. Gomez has been sent around, I think, by Vermeulen. That was a complete cluster. And there you can see Gomez in the background.
Yeah, Manuel Gomez possibly coming off worst of everybody, but that was such a mess. You saw how many, I think 20 people that broke themselves there. It was unbelievable into the bus stop chicane. Never seen anything quite like it, but on the exit was just contact everywhere, and people are hitting the pit wall somehow. Not really sure why or how, but anyway, that's happened as well. And it's all kicking off. It wasn't turn one, it wasn't even Lecom on the opening lap, but it still was lap one and down into the bus stop chicane.
Well, there is Cody Nikola Latkovsky trying to keep his way past one of the Verlers. There for 15th position, does have the drive up the hill. There's going to be plenty of side-by-side here. You can see up towards the distant shot as Gergo Baldi trying to get his way past Alessandro Ottaviani, who still manages to hold firm. Banky still leads from Pfeiffer, but there is the opportunity once again, leaning on each other. Gergo Baldi just trying to push Alessandro Ottaviani out wide. Gianmarco Fedicci looking for some more consistent results in the 2023 season of the Esports WTCR Championship. And at the moment, the two leaning on each other ahead for the podium are allowing the top two teammates to pull away ever so slightly on that group behind. They can't let that happen for too long, and I think there might be a slow down penalty for David Noj, who's going to drop back into the real clutches of that mid-pack.
Yeah, it certainly is. That's not where you want to be at all. If you want to be in the top five really here, because they're getting away from the rest, you ideally want to be on Door Esports and inside the top two, because they really are starting to pull away. But back here, it is messy, it is very, very congested, but very entertaining as well. I do have a feeling, though, that we're going to see something very similar down into the bus stop chicane on this lap as well. It was everybody out breaking themselves and making a bit of a mess of themselves into the final chicane on the last lap, and I do feel like the situation hasn't really changed that much. It's just as chaotic, so the same thing may well happen again.
I would not be surprised, that is for sure. There's Adam Pinsesh, Martin Barner behind. James Montgomery, by the way, doing a great job up to 8th position. Speaking of movement up, Jack Keithley up nearly 10 positions, up to 22nd from the back of the grid. As once again we take a look at 3rd, Alessandro Ottaviani with now 1.3 second gap ahead to Pfeiffer. You can see the two behind, the pair kind of seeing that two clearing away, thinking, okay, we need to get on with this. We need to find something. You're absolutely right. That was Cody Nikola Latkovsky sending Martin Barner straight over the escape road. As we look at Marvin Mackenberg in the middle of this pack, he's got Kramers behind him. He's got Erle behind him as well. Florian Haas' position ahead. But yes, it is a big, big cluster each time we go down to the bus stop chicane. I think that's going to be the case for the day, I guess. Yeah,
and once again, the field hasn't split apart as a result of all of this, so the same thing is just going to repeatedly happen into these tight braking zones, of which there really is only one at Spa. You don't really go very slow very often around here. The bus stop chicane is an opportunity for it, and it is just really messing with the order in this group that is present for most of the lap, but once they get to that tight braking zone at the end, it really does fall apart as the two Door Esports drivers really are pulling away now. They're pretty much working together, 1 and 2.
Yeah, and obviously we saw the two Esports drivers working together in the previous round. Only that time it wasn't Max Pfeiffer and Bence Banky, it was Tim Yarshaw and Florian Haas. They were working really well in the opening stages of the Nordschleife race, but until we got to a 3rd sector on the first lap, and then everything started to slightly unravel. There is Jersey James. Well, he's not satisfied at the moment with 8th position. He wants a little bit more in this race. That is him getting past Noj. Actually, in actual fact, I was thinking it was actually moving up another spot, but Vermeulen is the one now directly ahead of him in that virtual drivers by TX3 machine. 7th position at the moment for the Belgian. The lone driver in his home round, as much as it's a virtual home. There is a straight-on moment for James Montgomery. If he just overdid it, or if he was leaned on a little bit by Noj.
It didn't really look like there was anybody that near him.
No, well, I think it looked like it was a sailor mistake.
It did, yeah. A weird one, though. You don't often see that put on. No. It's not a big braking zone, so there's not really a lot to overshoot there. But anyway.
I mean, I crashed there once so hard that I crashed a server on a different platform. So
I have a feeling I know which race that was.
yeah, I think you might too. It was not my finest moment.
No. But not the worst that season. Anyway.
No, that came a couple of rounds late when I ran out.
Anyway, thankfully none of that here. Nearly 3 wide though, up towards Blanchimont in this battle for what is now 8th place, with David Nodge up towards the front, and side by side between Montgomery and Adam Pinchas there. Very, very close between the two. And we'll see who's going to come out on top. It looks like Montgomery's just going to break a little bit early. That might be his undoing though. Oh, he very nearly got clattered there by Martin Barner. And once again for the 3rd lap in a row, or is it 4th lap? I've lost count, but there's been chaos at the chicane again.
Yeah, Marvin Mackenberg dropping back quite a bit in all of that, as well as a couple of others. It's like you say, each time we go racing down into it, it's just a little bit too messy, if I'm perfectly honest, as we can see if Zampi was going to go for anything. Back up to the battle for 3rd, Alessandro Ottaviani still managing to hang on, but this is just going to frustrate the two behind. What do they do? Where do they go from here?
Yeah, it's difficult really. It looks like Baldy is going to sort of help Ottaviani in some way, but the race is gone by this point, I would imagine, between Banki and Pfeiffer. They've both gone here, I would imagine. Ottaviani going to get to, within a 2.5 seconds here, but that's not really close enough. Still more than 15 minutes to go, so you never know. They could really get themselves together and catch the top 2, but I do think it will be contested between the teammates.
Yeah, I'm not sure as to what way I'd go about it if I'm Ottaviani. Obviously, you've got 1 second to the car. I think if Baldi starts working with you, and going about he's a very smart driver, I think he will start working with Alessandro Ottaviani, and same with Gianmarco Fiducci, as much as ex-teammate now to Alessandro Ottaviani. I think we'll sit behind, we'll push more and focus on trying to get a victory rather than battling over a podium. Their eyes are a little bit further down the road. We are only 9 minutes into this 25-minute race, and we still see more battles down the hill. Steph Kramer's taking a good look down the inside of Ilya Dromosekov, so Mackenberg directly behind. Moving a little bit further up the order, of course, it is the main man himself in this race at the moment, it seems. Jack Keithley, he's now moved up to 16th, so effectively halfway through the grid before the halfway point. That means he's going to win the race, right?
Well, in theory, it certainly does. With 5 minutes to spare as well, if we're going by that theory.
Easily.
But obviously that's not likely to happen. The thing that he's done well, though, is getting himself in a group which, I say that actually, he does have 3 seconds between Wurler and Haase there, and he's in all this kind of mess. The messiness into the final chicane is generally getting lower and lower down the field. Now it's outside of the top 10 comfortably. Jack Keithley's still involved in it. He's got through on Wurler there, and now he's going to try and get through on Pavel McConin, although it wasn't a great run through Blanchimont. Here we go into the chicane again.
Yeah, that was a super save from Jack Keithley. Going to the outside is Ilya Dromosekov. Still doesn't hang on. Still doesn't manage to make his way past Keithley. So Keithley hangs on to 15th spot. You can see quite a few of those running wide going down the bus stop chicane, but I think we have avoided any major calamities, at least for this lap. You can see a couple of little dives in the background as we head back up to the fight for 3rd. That are still, I'd still say that it's not done. They're 1.1 seconds off of the back. It depends entirely on what Gergo Bowley does here. Is he going to sit behind and bump draft as he did in the previous lap, or is he going to try and make his way past, try and get after the top 2 himself? I think bump draft is the answer.
I think he's bump drafting, but it is going to be pretty late if they're going to get there. I mean, the gap at this time last lap was about 1.4, 1.3. It's 1.5 now, so it's not getting any better. And so a real difficult one for them really, and it's pretty difficult for Jack Keithley as well by the looks of this. Looking inside, outside, any side for a move on Pavel McConin, but can't do it. And now Ilya Dromosekov is going to be behind, trying to make a move, won't be able to there. So you've got these people now 10 minutes into the race, they're kind of stuck in their groups really, and they're struggling to make their way out of them.
Did say about this in the last round how Ilya Dromosekov was so happy about being in this season, not only to be in this season, which is all great, but to have an actual livery in the game with his name on it, which is always kind of like one of those things when it comes to, it's like in an actual livery in an actual game that actually has your actual name on it. There's something just so fulfilling about it, and to have it for the first time for Ilya Dromosekov. Unfortunately, did not have the round they were expecting back in the Nordschleife. Yes, 16th is not great, but it is in the cusp, isn't that kind of remit to move forward. Let's speak of though moving forward. Speak of the battle for 9th position. James Montgomery holds off Barner, then Cody Nikolakowski, David Noj and Florian Haase. This battle is for slightly more weights than you'd normally expect because, of course, this race, when it finishes, you'll have the top 10 reversed, and that sets the grid for the second race that will follow immediately after.
Yeah, everyone here's going to score points, but not everyone's going to benefit from the reverse grid here. Only 2 out of the 5 can, so there is going to be a fight. Martin Barner, doesn't want to be the one to lose his place if there's any overtakes, and so secures 9th. Although James Montgomery has spent plenty of time in 10th place so far in this race, so he's pretty used to being in this position by now. And it's going to be, once again, David Nodger on the back of him and diving down the inside at La Source. Such a dive, he nearly got into the side of Barner there, but he managed to stay out of it, and now they're going to run side by side towards Eau Rouge.
An unbelievable scent from Cody Nikolakowski, the Macedonian, moving up inside the top 10, depending on what James Montgomery does. I think Montgomery is lifted off to allow Cody Nikolakowski to fully take over rather. That 10th position. Next on behind, Noj is kind of sat there, but as they're slipstreaming up, really it looks like the moves might come from Haase or potentially even from Montgomery again on the comeback charge up to the rear end of Cody Nikolakowski. Of course, desperate for that 10th position. Although I would say desperation for 10th now might pay off in a very, very poor way in 11 minutes and 20 seconds time, when you're going to be potentially pushed out of position to go and move through into that reverse grid.
Yeah, it's a very nervous position. I mean, the dropping there of Florian Haase is a good thing for the 4 that are remaining, because it means their chances have increased from 40% to 50% now of ending up inside the top 10. But I know it doesn't quite work like that, but in theory. So it is between these 4 now. I can't really see anybody catching up from behind and getting into this, mainly because Florian Haase is losing all kinds of pace. He's suddenly dropped 2.5 seconds. And there's no obvious reason that I can see as to why. I mean, it's a heck of a slowdown.
I mean, 2 seconds would be kind of in the margins. It's about where it came from. We'll say, by the way, when it comes to gaps growing, you see the one for 4th, Garibaldi to Gianmarco Vinucci, 1.2 seconds, and Petr Pliska's closing in as well.
I think we've been talking about this race really as if it's sort of a draft track, and I guess in a way it is, but there is a lot of places here where you can make up time by just pure driving. So I guess we shouldn't be too surprised that people are just dropping off due to the pace, really. And you can be sure that there will be a very high pace at the front here. Ottaviani trying to close down on the 2 Tour Esports cars. Baldi doing his very best to help him in that, help for now at least. And yeah, it's difficult to stay with the pace, really. Clearly, even for Fiducci. But this is around where you'd expect to see Fiducci, really. Top 5, solidly, but not winning, unfortunately. I mean, that's where he was last round, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he did take... It was in the Cupra e-racing competition around here. We were doing like some odd formats. I do remember commentating with Gianmarco Vinucci taking a victory around here, courtesy of some contact on the last lap. He took that win and was very, very elated to take that victory. I don't know. I think seeing him win racing is kind of is not. It's not an abnormality. Seeing him outside of the top 5 though that's where he's gaining that consistency. But consistency is what crowns champions, and so if he wants to go after the title later on, that's what he needs to aim for. As there's contact, Jack Keithley receiving a bit of a door bang from some. I'm going to say what was Steph Crane, which has got Pavel McConan directly ahead. He's not been able to clear his way from the front of the field and then pull away. And I can kind of understand this is where the problems come from, rising up from the back of the grid. For anyone, by the way, wondering, because he's got that back of the grid penalty for the previous one, or it was a ban from qualifying. Wherever he finishes in this race, its standard rules apply. So he will be, if he finishes in 12th, he starts from 12th. If he finishes in 10th, he'll start from 1st because of the top 10 first. He's not going to have to start at the back for 2 consecutive races.
That would be really harsh.
That would be unbelievable. You'd have to really, really irritate from behind the scenes for that to be the case. And
all your efforts as well would amount to about 2 points, I reckon, as well, unfortunately. So yeah, thankfully that's not the case. But Keithley looks like the best he can do in this one is 2 points, I'm afraid, for a 14th position, because McConan is just in front, and that might be all he can get. I think it's going to be 3 laps to go when we get to the line here. And it's still between the door Esports 2. I really can't see them being caught, because Ottaviani and Bodie have been really going at it now for a good 15 minutes to try and catch them, but it's just not happening.
No, I don't see it either. I think realistically, if you're Ottaviani and Baldi right now, you're actually kind of almost less focused on the 2 ahead and more focused about making sure that Gianmarco Fiducci is no longer a part of this fight. I know obviously you might say, well, now is the time. There's 1.8 seconds between the 2 of them, but not necessarily done. That's the problem, is that that kind of around the 2-second margin is where this can happen. Florian and McConan. There is a bit of a battle there with McConan and Kramers. I think it might have been in contact between the 2. And also Keithley trying to come through.
Yeah, that was all very close. And really up on the curb as well there for Jack Keithley. But will he be able to use it outside line to get through? He's been given the room just about. They're going to run side by side down towards Eau Rouge. Not quite. Keithley not really with the exit speed there off of La Source to get anywhere near. Steph Krebers deciding to just stay behind and push him there rather than go alongside, and I think that is probably the best idea. Keithley with a good run up and over the hill now, and he should be able to head to the outside line to actually move in, maybe. Well, he's looking, but he's pulled out the slipstream quite early. He's hit the wall of air, and now he's going to be in trouble as we're nearly 3 wide into towards Lecombe.
Oh yeah, this is not going to go well. Keithley might lose out to Kramers as well, but he's going to try and sweep around the outside of Pavel McConan. That is absolutely super if he can make it stick. 1, 2, 3 apexes ticked off through now, and he's squeezing though with Jack Keithley. Pavel McConan pushed over the curb, and Keithley straight down into Ravage. Door is wide open, and McConan is going to sweep his way back through. Ilya Drobosekov also almost making his way past. Steph Kramers loses out a couple of positions to a couple of the other ones between Ilya Drobosekov and I think potentially Vela as well. But after all of that, after all that effort, after all that time wasted, it is still Pavel McConan at the head of this group.
Yeah, he's doing a good job with it now, is McConan. He is kind of resigning them all to 14th or worse at this point, making absolutely no effort to catch anybody in front. Not that he'd be able to at this stage in the race anyway, but he will be frustrating a few people here, and you can just imagine what's that going to do to them in the second race as well, because they are all going to start around each other in these positions, you'd imagine, because they're not going to reach the reverse grid now, yeah, hopefully there's going to be no sort of afters taken forward into the second race, really, because there's been all sorts of battling, and I hope that it stays clean throughout this race and the next one as well, with the amount that's been going on. This group though has been relatively quiet by this race's standards, and by certainly compared to what I thought, it would be a little bit busier than this. But with 2 laps to go, they're still being relatively civil with each other. Yeah,
it should be 2 laps to go based on where Bensbank is, unless he lights up the hyperdrive. Realistically, we are dealing with just 2 further laps left at the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. There is contact there as Cody Nikola Latkovsky makes his way past David Nosh into the slipstream of James Montgomery, who might potentially lose out on that top 10 reverse grid by a single position, but someone has to. And all you're sat there in the race is, please don't be me. Let it, like, if you're going to go for it, take me out so hard that I'm no longer a part of this fight to some degree. Rather than being knocked off of that spot and then finishing in 11th spot, 1 position down on the reverse grid, is Latkovsky's still going to keep Naj at bay. Potentially a little bit too much of a squeeze there coming into Lecombe. Yeah, bit of a squeeze, but in the end, don't want to lose too much time. These two don't want to fight with each other and then find themselves, neither of them in the top 10. Oh, there's the contacts that we kind of expecting to happen throughout this battle. It's been so fierce so far that surely something was going to happen at some point. And now Steph Kremers has, well, got himself involved briefly, and then he pulls out the way straight away. Ilya Drobosekov pulls himself out the way immediately, and all of a sudden they're pretty much back to where they were. And remarkably, nobody's changed positions there. It's absolutely bizarre when those battles happen, because you're sat there being like, surely someone has to lose out at this, but apparently racing drivers don't believe in any of that. Looking backwards from Pavel McConan, you can see Jack Keithley. Again, he's done such a good job to have risen up the order to this point, but he's not focused on finishing in 11th position or even 14th or 12th or 10th or whatever. He only wants to finish first. That is the goal at the moment in these kinds of races.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult for any of them to really get too motivated about this one, I would imagine, because there's 8 of them and only 2 of them are going to score points, with the maximum getting 2 points. So it's not a particularly appetising prospect, as it looks like this group of 4 has split themselves in half, and now the 2 teammates are battling. Ben Spanky and Max Pfeiffer have been really civil with each other so far in this race, but now finally Ottaviani and Bodie have got a chance to close in because the teammates are side by side.
Could the patience have paid off for the 2 behind? Adur Esports going to potentially throw this one away. Pfeiffer and Banky free to battle it out very clearly within the Adur Esports camp. Onto the final lap of the race in the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. Banky with the lead, Pfeiffer back in line, and less than a second back now to Alessandro Ottaviani, who will be in that slipstream, desperate to try and close up. And I've got to say, after how that battling was looking, this fight is definitely on. Surely they've said the all clear to Pfeiffer. He doesn't now care about the 2 cars behind. He wants to take the victory. Which way is he going to go? Banky goes, a little bit of a cut across. Of course, Banky being given the race victory after the penalty for Keithley back in the Nordschleife. He's looking for his 2nd of the season. And at the moment, he's going to fend off his teammate, but he's got a little bit wide. Pfeiffer almost through.
Well, that would have been a bizarre move, but Pfeiffer gave it a go, and it is all going to come down to the bus stop chicane. These 2 have given up on catching the leaders. They're fighting for the final spot on the podium between themselves, and Bodie, with the slightly better of the 2 races at the Nordschleife, does need these points maybe a little bit more than Ottaviani does, who finds himself back down in 8th in the standings, but everybody's going to see themselves as still involved in the championship fight this early on. Even Max Pfeiffer, really, who is even further down in 13th position. They're all going to see themselves as involved, so we're going to see some quite some moves into the final bus stop chicane.
I think you have to tell yourself that you're always in the championship fight until you know you really, really aren't, because that's what's going to give you that little extra juice, that little extra fire, that little extra knowledge that you can hang on and that you will hang on. This is back to the fight for 10th, and again, very important there to hang on to the final spot inside the top 10 reverse grid as Gianmarco Fiducci struggles a little bit back into the clutches of Vermeulen and Pliska at present, but still that gap's kind of large enough. On to the final stretch then, and let's see if there's going to be any further switches up towards Blanchimont for the last time. Banky versus Pfeiffer, Baldi versus Ottaviani. Gianmarco Fiducci tried to keep the clutches of Pliska and Vermeulen at bay. Is there going to be a switch this time? There wasn't the previous lap. Pfeiffer's going to look to the outside as we head down into this bus stop chicane. As we head through the exit of it, a little bit of a brush between the teammates, and it is going to be Ben Spanky taking his 2nd victory of the season. The championship leader does it again here at Spa, as he'll take top honours ahead of Pfeiffer. Alessandro Ottaviani will round out the podium after a very solid defensive drive from Gergo Baldi and Gianmarco Fiducci. But you've got to say, what a drive, what a tactical display from Ben Spanky.
Yeah, Max Pfeiffer went for a different one on that time. On the penultimate lap, he went into the outside for the first part of the bus stop chicane, found himself on the curb at the second part. So thought about going sort of inside at the first part and then outside, around the outside through the second part to not end up on the curb and maybe with a run towards the line. But in the end, it didn't quite happen how he envisaged, I don't think. And it ended up with 2nd place for him, but a 1-2 for Adur Esports.
Yep, and fastest lap going to Pfeiffer, finishing in that 2nd position, just a 10th clear of Ben's Banky ahead. Alessandro Ottaviani, Gergo Baldi, Gianmarco Fiducci, Peter Pliska, Axel Vermeulen into 7th on debut this season. Adam Pinsesh in 8th, Martin Barner in 9th, and James Montgomery in Jersey. James, welcome to the front row of the grid. He'll be starting from the reverse grid pole. Those behind the scored points: David Nodge, Cody Nikolakowski, Florian Haase, Jack Keithley, and Ilya Drovasekov. You can see the rest of the results as we get ready for a very, very thrilling 2nd race. We'll just step aside for a moment, and when we're back, we're ready for some more racing action. Well, what a first race that was. And what a victory it was for Bence Banky. Lewis McGlade, Ewan O'Leary in the commentary booth. Ewan, I mean, again, great victory. And Bence Banky proving why he's the championship leader there.
Yeah, it certainly did. I feel like he did have a lot of help from his teammate, to be fair. Max Pfeiffer there pushing him for the first, what was that, 8 laps of that race? Long time. That certainly helped him, but obviously you've got to do the business yourself. And Banky will now have an even stronger championship lead to what he had going into today of 5 points. He beat Bodie there by quite a few points and will have extended that championship lead quite a little bit now. So we'll see how it gets through the reverse grid. We didn't really see any drivers get through that well at the Nordschleife. Might have been a little bit down to the circuit, and we're certainly going to see that to an even bigger effect at Macau in 2 weeks' time. But let's see how people get through the field at Spa.
These are the standings coming into this round, so you can add 30 extra points onto Bence Banky, taking him up to 69. Nice. He'll be clear by quite a few now of the rest of the field. Gogo Bowdy obviously finishing off on the podium in 4th position in that race. So that gap would definitely have grown quite a significant margin. But it comes down to the reverse grid races. These are always the ones that are the more important, probably isn't the way I really want to put it, but it is kind of in that vein. It does have that aura, purely based on the fact of, if you are unable to finish, higher up the order, somewhere inside the top 5, if you're unable to make your way up, that can cost you a championship. Finishing in 1st and 10th every single round we go racing probably isn't going to be enough. Yeah,
probably not. I mean, to be fair though, even Banky with his last 2 results, it might be enough. To be honest, he didn't do that well. But then again, nobody really did. So if somebody does nail this, then they could gain some points. I think what Baldy has to do though is make sure that he finishes ahead of Bence Banky in this round. I don't want to in this race. Sorry, I don't want to kind of narrow it down to a 2-horse race already. But everybody's going to be looking at Bence Banky coming up behind them, and nobody's going to be letting him through. Everybody, I think, believing that they'll have to beat him.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. 25 minutes is put back onto the clock. The second race of Spa is about to get underway, and it's Jersey James on pole position. Let's see what he can do on the race down towards that first corner as we are underway at Spa once again. It is a good start from Jersey James at the front of the field as he'll head his way through that first corner and will hang on to the race lead as we look back towards Pfeiffer. We look back towards Banky in that middle of the pack as we start our funnel down the hill towards Eau Rouge and Radion. Let's see what happens. Pfeiffer then dropped back behind his teammate. Bence Banky already making up a single position over the race start, and the climb up the hill towards Radion is nice and clean. But it is James Montgomery holding the head of the field.
Yeah, it's very much a single file train going up towards Eau Rouge there. Very much nobody going side by side up the hill, which is probably the sensible idea, really. Now everybody's going to pull out and try and make moves. Martin Barner on the outside line, more protecting his second, I think, than going for first. And it looks like everybody's pretty pleased with where they are. Bence Banky has already made his way through on Max Pfeiffer, and now the fighting will begin. Pliska trying to get through on Vermeulen there. Because Pliska, winner of race 2 2 weeks ago, and looking to do it again with a great dive around the outside. It looks like he's up to 4th already.
Marco Paducci having a bit of a moment there as well, running out wide, opening the door for Gogo Bowdy to come through. He's too focused on getting past Axel Vermeulen for 5th position and get himself into yet another top 5 finish. Of course, there's plenty of time left to go in this race, but that gap is growing. Pliska being his teammate from the previous round. Anna Pinsesh, Martin Barner and James Montgomery, the only drivers ahead. Who's that going wide? I think it might be David Nodge. He's going to lose out a couple of positions to Florin Haas and Ilya Drovosekov. Surely that one was assisted, though we have seen a couple of issues. There was a drive that's been denoted towards Ferenc Dinez, and so for the Hungarian there is going to be a sizable penalty heading his way, sadly enough, but that is sometimes how it goes. It's back towards the head of the field, and it is Jersey James at the front.
I do wonder what's going to happen down here and towards the bus stop chicane, though. We saw on the opening lap of the first race just how chaotic it was, with so many people out breaking themselves, and with 27 of them pretty much in a line here, all the way from Montgomery right down to Sebastian Rui right down at the end. I do wonder what's going to happen down here. Martin Barner going to head to the outside. Is he going to look for the move, or is he going to be protecting second place as he was more so in towards Lecomte? Well, it looks like he's protecting second, really, as the madness behind begins.
It wasn't too bad, actually, running through there this time by. Once again, Pfeiffer and Banky, the teammate duo, battling it out as Vermeulen's dropped back down the order. Look at this, though. Barner's going forward. He's got to the up and under, coming through the bus stop beautifully. As we head into the source, it's side by side for first and second. It's side by side for third and fourth as well, as Pintes just trying to keep Pliska at bay as we head down the hill once again. Gianmarco Vinucci back into it. It's going to be side by side towards Eau Rouge, because Pliska, is he going to lift out of this one? If he does, he might well be in the clutches of Gianmarco Vinucci by the time they get to the brakes at Lake Con in about a kilometre's time.
Yeah, it's all going to be a real mess in towards Lecomte. No thoughts of staying 1 and 2 and trying to get away from the rest, as we saw in the opening race. This is all about fighting with each other, and Martin Barner's going to get pushed to the lead here by Adam Pinches, who wants second, and he's going to get it, as well as Pliska, who's trying to get up to third. Oh dear, he's going to have to muscle some room, get a gap out of nowhere almost in the second part of Lecomte. He's going to be pushed out wide through Malmedy, and he will drop into fourth. And now the fighting will begin, maybe with the front two being allowed to get away. We'll see what happens with Montgomery, but Pliska really hounding him here.
Yeah, he's looking for every single way to pass at the moment. The top two are clearing away, not teammates. Martin Barner driving for Mirror Esports, the team of Norbert Michelis, and then Adam Pintes driving for Arnage Competition. Is there a slowdown penalty there was that Alessandro Ottaviani? It certainly was. He's dropped back now to 11th position, so a slowdown penalty for him coming out of no name. He's going to battle it out with Vermeulen to try and get himself back inside the top 10, but it seems as though the Belgian might hang firm on the inside heading through Pivpa. The answer is actually potentially not, after contact all over the rear end. Florian Haase essentially assisting the Italian to hold what is effectively going to be 10th position as we look backwards from Jack Keithley, who's inside the top 10 already.
Yeah, he's done a very good job, actually, as Keithley, in terms of making his way through the field, but we saw that in race 1 in terms of the way he got into, 16th place in 10 minutes or something like that. It was very strong indeed, so it's not too much of a surprise. The top two have gotten away once again, and the battle for third is possibly even fiercer than it was last race, and this is all going to be a load of dives into the bus stop chicane. Oh, it's even before as well, as Pliska goes off. I think that is for Fordzilla, was it? It was indeed. The winner from race 2 a couple of weeks ago has made contact and gone off wildly at the bus stop outside the top 10 now.
Yeah, very difficult scenes there as James Montgomery is going to hang on to third. Gianmarco Vinucci then up to fourth, looking back at Vermeulen, trying to hang on from Alessandro Ottaviani. A little bit of ducking and weaving into that first corner. The final position inside the top 10. Once again, it might be a switch out to see Florian Haase move his way up the order. But again, there is no reverse grid for this one, because after this, we're done for this round at Spa before we head to the legendary Macau. Fantastic race. If these couple of races are anything to go by, I'm sure of it. I think we're in for an absolute treat this season. But at the moment, the advantage really is with Bent Banky when it comes down to the hunt at the moment for the championship. When it comes down to the hunt at the moment for this race, you did see there, it just popped up on screen ever so slightly. You will be the ones assisting us to see where we'll be going racing for the season finale, the community vote, where you get your say as to what these drivers will be battling over and over again for that final round of the season. It's going to be an absolute thriller, I have no doubt. But right now, it's going to be our focus at Spa. It's absolutely superb.
Yes, it's a good idea having the finale at a community track, as we've got someone slowing down and three wide. Goodness me. Pfeiffer there was already side by side with someone, and Garibaldi has had to move down the order as a result of a slowdown penalty. He absolutely cannot afford that. That is points down the drain. Yeah, second of the championship coming into this. Might be looking at something even slightly worse than that, as he drops down to 12th spot. Still points for that, but unfortunately it's only 4 points rather than what he'd feel was just deserved. But unfortunately, mistakes like that do cost dearly behind Ilya Dromosekov. We look at Alessandro Ottaviani in the Vermeulen battle at the moment. Vermeulen, though, is pushing, bump drafting, in fact, Jack Keithley. I
think Keithley might have an issue here because he's dropping down. He's sure he's got to slow down.
He must do. There's some kind of problem there because Keithley is dropping like a stone through this group, and he's only just slotted in front of McConan and Lakovsky, who are fighting themselves. McConan fires it down the inside at Blanchimont, and Lakovsky going to go to the outside as it's side by side again into the bus stop chicane. A little bit more reserved now as we're getting deeper into this race, but there's still some dives going on from a fair few number of drivers. Now make their way over the line again. And who's that making moves? Maybe Ottaviani trying to get through on Vermeulen there into turn number 1. Outside line not going to work on this occasion. This group, though, we kind of get to that stage in the race where everybody knows what group they're in and they're likely going to stay there for the rest of the race.
Yeah, Vermeulen was struggling a little bit with exit speed coming off of the chicane, and so felt the need to cover off the charges of Alessandro Ottaviani, and it did seem to work as there's 16.5 minutes left to go on the clock. Montgomery still hanging on to third position at the moment. The top two have cleared out 2 seconds over Montgomery, over Fiducci, Banky, Pfeiffer as well. So I suspect we'll see more, as we're seeing in the background between Vermeulen and Ottaviani. One way and back the other. A super cutback, switchback, bluff potentially from Alessandro Ottaviani that has absolutely caught Axel Vermeulen out. Super stuff, and Florian Haase might be able to come through here.
Yeah, these are the kind of things you see at Spa in the touring cars. Inside line for Ottaviani, protecting that big slide from Florian Haase, but just floor it and you'll be fine. And he has been 8th place for him. He is up ahead of Vermeulen and Drovasegov as well, who's involved here. Pavel McConan trying to drag everybody from behind into this one as well. And in which case he could be bringing everybody all the way down to Sebastian Rear at the very end there. It could become 15, 16 cars, this one long line, if they really get their act together behind.
It is quite a train, as we would expect in the Esports WTCR Championship. You can see it there heading down towards Pith Path. It's absolutely sensational. That's exactly what we expect. It is an extremely high level of competition to have touring cars race at this level with this branding, etc., etc. It's absolutely fantastic to see. But at the moment, it is 2 drivers clearing away, Barner and Pinsesh. No teammates, no affiliations, no nothing. Just 2 drivers being wise and going about it in their own time. Let's see what they end up with in just around 15 minutes left to go in this race. 2 seconds it is then clear of James Montgomery, who is only a 10th clear of Gianmarco Fiducci. Well, let's counter that one because Fiducci's got straight down the inside.
Yeah, he's done a good job, and once again getting 2 solid results over a round as well. But people haven't really been able to do this so far, getting 2 really good results. But Fiducci looks like he's doing it for the 2nd round in a row here. I know that Ben Spanky and Max Pfeiffer are right behind, and that is going to be a bit of a worry as far as the championship is concerned, and maybe even as far as this race is concerned in terms of podium places. But even so, another good round from Fiducci so far. It is looking good for him. He's behind. This battle for 7th place is seemingly only getting between more people every time we look at it.
Yeah, I kind of agree, by the way, going back to Gianmarco Fiducci. He's showing himself as being extremely consistent this season, and I think that's showing very well. It's matching his driving style. He does like to be smooth and consistent, to move up the order and try and look for 2 consecutive decent rounds, well, not just 2 consecutive decent results. Consistency that will move him further up in the championship challenge. We'll have to wait and see if there's going to be any further progress from that as we go back to Ottaviani, who's very close with Haase at the moment. It's really, really keeping him company. A couple of cars looking out in the background. I believe it was Jack Keithley for 12th position. And you know he is going to be a very determined figure in the final half, the final portion, the final chapter of this race in the Ardennes Forest.
Certainly is. He might well be up and down the field another couple of times, to be honest, before the end of this race. He's been able to do that fairly a lot of time so far tonight. We'll see where he can get to in this one. Still top 15 get points, by the way, in this race. So still in the lower end of the points, but another slowdown there for Jack Keithley, and he's going to fall down the order a little bit further once again. So still half of this race remaining, still 5 laps to go, but it does look like once again this group fairly settled, and the best that anyone here can hope for really is 6th position, and this battle for what is 13th position is resigning themselves to an even lower position if they're not careful.
Yeah, very big shame there for drivers picking up slowdown penalties and whatnot, and costing themselves some big gaps to those ahead. Did just see Jack Keithley coming out just behind Lars Wittvogt, and obviously had to deal with carrying his trailers around as race 2. There's 12.5 minutes left to go. There is Ottaviani, and there is quite literally everyone else.
Yeah, it's literally everybody else. Right the way to the very back of the field. I mean, the top 5 have got away, but other than that, it is fairly hectic here. And I'm kind of surprised as well. Ottaviani was 3rd in the last race, and he's a very strong driver, very quick as well. And I can't imagine why he's such a cork in the bottle right now. But he certainly is, and it's getting a little bit more stretched out now. But even so, it's still not fantastic. Still very much grouped up together, and this battle for 16th is just another example of that as Guga Bodie tries to make his way back into the points.
I mean, it is an interesting one, but sometimes it's racing. At the moment, quite a few teams and drivers are being a bit more patient as this race goes on. Others definitely not so. Ilya Dromosekov. Sorry, it isn't even Ilya Dromosekov. It's his teammate trying to defend at the moment as we look back towards Ilya and Cody Nikola Latkovsky, who's trying to defend from Pavel Makonnen and struggling to catch back up to this train. And the potential's there, but then is the mindset there? That's sometimes the more important bit in a race like this. Is do you have the mindset to not only catch up but stay there after you put the work in?
Yeah, we've seen many times in this race so far people getting fired out the back, and it's been fairly damaging for some. It is a case of, are you working together? Are you in the mindset to work together, or are you just in the mindset to fight as much as possible? We've seen plenty of examples of both so far in this race. For these 3, looks like they're kind of working together, and the fact that Banky and Pfeiffer are teammates has been really helpful in this race so far. They've been able to work together almost without communication at all, and they might even be able to catch the front 2, although these 2 are working well together.
We'll have to wait and see where the next 10 minutes unfold, whether there's going to be any further opportunities for pitches. Surely there's...
Yeah, I would imagine there is going to be a chance or 2.
Kind of thing is waiting for his right opportunity.
Oh, I just lost you there for a second. Don't know if that was me or you.
I think so. That's just a big panic. Don't worry. I thought I had a technical issue. Don't worry. I'm doing this from a hotel, the old classic.
the excuse. No, yeah.
Yeah, throw it out there straight away.
Address? No. But yeah, no, I do think I think actually we're going to see a very similar situation to what we had last race. Actually, even though Barna and Princess aren't teammates per se, they are. Well, I don't think the fact they're compatriots even matters really. Anyone would work together in this situation, I feel. Especially in Princess's position, Barna will be pretty pleased to be able to secure himself a top 2, and they'll just fight it out over the last 2 laps as Pfeiffer and Banky did. Speaking of the 2 of them, Banky down the inside of Finucci. Pfeiffer tries to follow but isn't able to quite.
Yep, and that is again championship leader getting up onto the podium, looking for back-to-back ones here at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. It's a big moment there from Banky. Nearly though, it was perfect. If Pfeiffer had got through on Gianmarco Finucci, it would have been absolutely spot on, but alas, not the case. To go back to your point, though, between Barna and Princess, I agree. I think it matters whether it's your compatriot or even your teammate. Right, in this kind of scenario, I've said this before in races, you're kind of like weighing up what you can gain and what you can lose. Now, right now, if they work together, right, Princess is guaranteed finishing either first or second. Decent points for him. If they fight, yes, he might finish second, might finish first, but they'll slow themselves down enough they might actually bring a lot more people into the fight. And there's no guarantee that he'll be able to break away and run away with the race lead. So it's kind of like focus on the big picture, focus on the long game. There is still 8 minutes left. There is still plenty of time for you to go after it, potentially in the final couple of laps. But right now, focus on building that gap on that feisty pack behind and guarantee at least a runner-up position, which no one wants to finish in, don't get me wrong, but still, it's decent points, isn't it?
Yeah, and as a result, I think that, even the greatest of rivals would work together in this position, in my opinion, and they'd be silly not to. Oh, dear! My foot down the inside, didn't quite make it, nearly crashed as well with Fiducci.
I could see a Jack Keithley, Tim Heineman, great rivalry, not gelling too well in the first and second position, trying to pull away from everyone. I think they might knock each other off the circuit, but thankfully that is in the past.
I think it would be silly, though, just to fight of any description, really.
It always was, trust me, having seen it firsthand.
Yeah, it would just be silly, really, for Pinchas to do anything other than follow here. Now, we are 3 laps to go with this one now. This is the kind of moment in the race where you start to think, especially given the fact they've got nearly 3 seconds. I know there's Ben Spanky behind, and he's very quick, maybe the quickest in the field. But it is the moment where you start to think and wonder when you're Adam Pinchas. Clearly not into the Lecombe chicane, but I wonder if he is starting to at least sort out the weaknesses of Martin Barner here and just begin to wonder where he can make this winning move, because he isn't going to sit here for all day. He's going to do most of the day just so he can secure himself second and then go for the win at the end.
Absolutely. Again, you can see it on your screen there. Phones out, ladies and gentlemen. The track vote, the community vote. You're going to be helping us out to decide where we're going to be going for the final round of the season. Of course, we've been to the Nordschleife. We're here at Spa. Next round we go to Macau. After that, we're off to Suzuka. Where do we go racing in round number 5? You get to help out. You get to decide. You get to tell us where we're going to be seeing the final showdown of the Esports WTCR of 2023 in a few weeks' time. Literally cannot wait. And the only reason I say that is because I think it's going to be an absolute thriller. But at the moment, it looks like as a championship position, it might not be quite as thrilling as we would expect, purely based on the fact that Ben Spanky has nailed it this round. A race victory in race 1, third in race 2, maybe even a little bit more. He has been closing in on Adam Pinchas. Not quite enough, right? Obviously, only 2 laps left to go. But his eyes have to be focused on trying to keep the feisty Italian of Gianmarco Fiducci at bay, as someone who is definitely expected to be fighting for this championship. Fiducci is not going to let Banky run away easily.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that nobody really managed to string 2 good results together at the Nordschleife, but Banky is doing that right now here at Spa. This is why Fiducci really needs to beat Banky in this race, really, because all of Banky's closest rivals from the last round haven't really had great races. Guga Baldi is way down at the moment. I can't even find him. 19th position in the field right now. Pliska a long way down as well. And so Fiducci has to start making moves like this. There's 2 laps to go. They know they're not going to catch the leaders without a miracle. They've got a bit of a gap to the battle for 6th place. And Fiducci has to beat Banky here, really. But the problem is he's up against 2 Door Esports drivers on his own.
Yeah, either side of him, because obviously he's got to worry about 5 behind. That slight lift out coming down into a route might actually cost him here, as the German of Pfeiffer is going to be closing in, heading through the camel curve onto the straight up towards Lecombe. Defensive line's already being taken by Ben Spanky. They're in the middle of the road. Gianmarco Fiducci looks one way, tries to dummy ever so slightly. The 46 going one way and back the other. And the trio going to hold their positions. Banky, Fiducci and Pfeiffer, they remain.
Yeah, it's still very close between the 3 of them. I just can't see a way that Fiducci beats the both of them, really. Pfeiffer's going to help Banky as much as he can and try and benefit off of that as well, of course. Fiducci 2 against 1. It's going to be really, really difficult for him, but he needs to do well here because Baldi's not having a good race. Neither is Pliska. Florian has currently 5th position, not had a good round. Neither is Juan Manuel Gomez. He's recovering now, but the incident at the start of race 1 has really set him back. David Notch as well is quite a long way back in this race. It's been a disappointment for quite a lot of those who were up there at the Nordschleife. It's really important that Fiducci beats Banky here and gains some points. Of course, everybody inside the top 15 right now scrapping for points, and those final points you just saw in the background being contested by about 10 cars.
Yeah, as we would expect, and one of those 10 being Gergo Baldi, who's not, like you say, having a particularly great round. It's been very up and down, slow down penalties, action, drama, bit of argy-bargy galore. There's going to be a lot of unhappy drivers. But realistically, right now, there's definitely one that's very, very happy. Will they be so in a lap's time? We're coming round to complete the penultimate lap of this race. Just one more left to go as Luciano Wittmann is trying to hang on to 14th position and the penultimate points-paying positions. Bump drafting happening, and here comes the move. 5 to the outside of Gianmarco Fiducci. There's contact between the two, and Fiducci might be sent off wide here. The German could be coming through and could be 5th potentially for Gianmarco Fiducci, but there's more going on between them.
Yeah, he's not happy at all. Fiducci and Pfeiffer not happy. There's going to be a whack here, I would imagine, as well. Well, Fiducci's going to go for the over and under instead. Pfeiffer might give him a whack on the way past. Fiducci was swerving about on the front straight as well. It was all very bad-tempered, really. Now side by side up towards Rouge. Fiducci's going to squeeze him sort of towards the middle of the road. Side by side up the hill between the two of them. Fiducci's going to prevail on the inside line, but Pfeiffer's going to come back in him with the slipstream. He might be there just in time for Lecon, but it has secured the Benz Banki a 3rd place by the looks of things. They're fighting between themselves for 4th, as the leaders are also side by side.
Yeah, that was absolutely sensational for Gianmarco Fiducci, and he's going to try and hang on at the moment. 4th position is his, but that's absolutely right, as there is the up and under. Pfeiffer's gone for it, coming up towards Malmedy, and he has made his way through. Pfeiffer up to 4th, Gianmarco Fiducci down to 5th, but it's not done yet, because down to reverse, there's contact again, and once again the switchback. It's an insane battle. It's maybe a little bit too much, but my goodness me, is it entertaining.
Yeah, very entertaining indeed. Fiducci may have been over the line there once or twice on this last lap, because he has been driving aggressively, and Max Pfeiffer may well be putting a complaint in at the end of it all, but it has been very exciting indeed. The battle for 4th place really delivering, and the battle for 1st is as well. Adam Pinchas gave it a go into Lecom. He's going to have to wait for the final chicane.
We'll keep our eye on it and see if there is going to be that opportunity for Pinchas. But let's be honest, there is one final opportunity, Ewan, and that's coming down in towards the bus stop. You've got to go for it. It's a race victory. You know, if it was for 2nd or 5th or 8th or whatever, you're kind of like, oh, well, I'll give it a look, but maybe nothing major. But this is for a win. You've got to go for it, surely.
Yeah, you absolutely have to go for it. Pinchas not with a great run out of Stabilo there at all. And so he is going to have to use the slipstream. He's going to have to game through Blanchimont and try it at the final chicane. Martin Barner's not going to roll over either. And we've seen the 2nd driver going into this position last race didn't prevail either. So let's see if the race leader can hang on again.
Yeah, Barner, where is he going to go? Surely he's going to take the inside line, but it's not going to be coming off because Adam Pintesh has gone for it. But is he going to be too deep? Hungarian versus Hungarian. Pintesh is gone in a little bit too deep. There's going to be contact between the two. And Franage competition, it should go the way of Adam Pintesh. There's going to be a drag race up towards the line. There's going to be thousands between them as there's drama behind for Gianmarco Fiducci. But on the line, it is Pintesh, literally just by the tiniest of margin, by the skin of his teeth. He'll take victory in the 2nd race at Spa. Martin Barner and Banki behind. But what happened between Pfeiffer and Fiducci? That is the big drama there.
Yeah, it really just boiled over between Pfeiffer and Fiducci, trying to find out quite what happened. Pfeiffer was on the inside for the 2nd part of the final chicane and served Fiducci from the camera angle we got at the live cameras. You may have noticed it at home. I had to rewind the stream and look again. It looked like Pfeiffer went straight into the side of Fiducci, was sent out wide, but we'll have to obviously look at the replays.
Yeah, certainly so. You'll have to wait for those highlights, unfortunately, as it was just 400 a second between Pintesh and Barner. Absolutely incredible. Dury Sports in 3rd and 4th, Banki and then Pfeiffer, the championship leader, on a fantastic round with a race victory and a 3rd position, double podiums for him. Then Alessandro Ottaviani, Florian Haase, Gianmarco Fiducci, fresh as a privateer here at Spa. Vermeulen, Montgomery down to 9th, Pavel Makonin in 10th position. Superb drive as Cody Nikola Latkovsky, Keithley, Drovosekov, Juan Manuel Gomez and Hucek round out the points-paying positions. Fastest lap going its way of Pfeiffer in that race. But yes, a lot of drama to deal with. And after the dramas of the previous round, I do suspect that we're going to have a lot from race control to deal with once again.
Yeah, they're going to have a lot of replays to go through, and they might well be dealing out a lot of penalties. You might well be talking about quite a lot of pre-race penalties heading into the next one as well, and I don't think any race wins taken away, to be honest. I think Ben Spanky and Adam Pinchess did enough there in terms of clean driving to have their positions all fine. But it's what came behind, especially the battle between Finucci and Pfeiffer there. I don't think either of them painted themselves in real glory. And if in any other cars, it was GT racing, prototype racing, open wheel racing, everyone would be like, what the hell is this? This is really aggressive. But, because it's touring car racing, you kind of get away with it sometimes. You can get away with a little bit of over-aggressive driving sometimes. But even that might have been a little bit of a step too far for race control.
Well, let's speak of what we're going to be expecting next round then. Spa's done. We'll wait for our confirmation. Race control will have a lot to deal with. Obviously, we're not going to have confirmation of that now. It's going to take a little while for them to actually go through everything, which you can all find on social media by going to follow RaceRoom, etc., etc. Find out exactly what's going on, because there are so many competitions on RaceRoom that happen even between the rounds. But next time we go racing at Macau. Now, this has been a circuit which has delivered drama both in the Esports WTCR and the Cupra Sim Racing series, as well as elsewhere in RaceRoom. You said it earlier, it's a fantastic build of Macau. It is the absolute definitive build of Macau in sim racing, and that is not me just trying to give a big plug towards racing. It's absolutely fantastic. And for anyone who remembers, I was actually having a chat with one Mr. Rob Wiesemuller today about this, because we were discussing Macau, we were discussing sim racing, we were discussing who it was who ended up doing that J-turn out of the hairpin, was spun round at the hairpin, reversed, did a flick spin, got back going again, and didn't lose a single position. It was Alexandre Vermont. I think it was back when it was WTCC, potentially, a very long time ago. But it's a circuit which has delivered drama and so many storylines.
I think I remember seeing that, because you sent it to me and you were like, "Look at this absolute meme." But anyway,
sounds about right.
Yeah, it's a really great build of Macau. I have to say, on a personal level, I've thoroughly enjoyed driving it, and there's nothing better to drive it, in my opinion, than in touring cars. The GT3s are a little bit too quick for my liking around there. It gets a bit scary, but the touring cars, very, very entertaining indeed around there. And produce some good racing as well. I think Macau often criticised for not having the best racing around there. And I think in the GT3s that may be true. But with the slipstream, the fact that these cars are a little bit slower, I think we will have some good racing around Macau. And it's certainly going to be a dramatic and important day for the championship. So one well worth tuning in for.
Well, it'll be a couple of weeks' time, and we'll have to wait and see where things go in this championship. There'll be a lot to debrief you on by the time we get there. Until then, though, we are done here at Spa. I'd like to thank Ewan O'Leary for being a super sub this round. James Kirk should be back when we go to racing at Macau. But Super Sub obviously jumping in for his first ever round of Esports WTCR combats. From Captain Coffee, Chris Doe, of course, behind the scenes, and from myself, Lewis McGlade. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. Until then, though, bye-bye.